Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, non-binary, distinguished guests, welcome to Ridiculous Life of a Clown.
I'm David Melendy, and I do clown and theater, and I ride bicycles and make postcards.
And you're currently part of a duo?
I am.
Out of Switzerland?
We're based in Switzerland. We're based in Freiburg.
Oh, what's the name of your group?
It's called Les Diptyques. It's not the best name for Anglophones.
What does diptych mean?
Diptych's like, you know what a triptych is?
Yeah.
Like a three-peat. Yeah, so diptych
it's a two-piece,
is two.
a duo. Okay,
Exactly.
That makes sense. That's a lovely name.
Yeah.
It's a nice play on words.
Yeah. Well, we spent months and months searching for this name. And then it got to the last day where we're supposed to find, we had to submit for a festival and things. And then my partner, Celine, she was like, oh, what about diptych? She sent me this text message. And I was like, okay, without even thinking. And then on later reflection, I thought about for an English speaker, all of the sound associations. And all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, dipshit, dipstick, deep dick, dip shit. And especially when you pronounce it like with a French accent, then it's diptyque.
Diptych, yes.
And then it sounds like I'm saying, yeah, my duo's name is Deep Dick.
Nice.
So
David, you are, I'm going to say, probably the youngest person we've had on the podcast. What was it that brought you to clown in the first place? Your earliest inkling towards wanting to do this, and not necessarily clown, but what were the steps that led you to eventually the conservatory and then eventually Switzerland and the group that you're part of now?
Well, funnily enough, when I was like 5, I had kind of an obsession with clowns. My mom would always make me clown costumes, and I'd dress up as a clown for Halloween. And I was really excited when I got a red nose for my birthday. I
think I was 12 or 13, but yeah, I had a similar fixation.
Yeah. Well, then I promptly forgot about that for all of my adolescence. But it was actually, I guess, searching for what to do after high school. It was like, okay, I'm supposed to go to college and get a degree. And I'd done theater, so I was kind of interested in that. But there weren't any programs or schools that really spoke to me. And somehow I heard about the Clown Conservatory in San Francisco.
Any recollection?
It might have been Iman.
Mm-hmm.
You know Iman?
Lazaro.
She's based in
Lazaru?
Santa Cruz.
Am I saying that right? She was a student of, disciple of Avner the Eccentric. She was close to Avner, and she used to come up and teach some stuff at the Clown Conservatory.
Right. So she's based in Santa Cruz with Renegade Juggling, actually, and I think I might have heard about it from her first. But I heard about it and it was like, well, that sounds interesting, and I taught myself to juggle. And
how did you meet her, and why did you teach yourself to juggle?
I think I taught myself to juggle because why does anyone learn how to juggle? They think it'll be cool.
Yeah, they're mistaken. It is the farthest thing from cool. It's cool to little kids, like just the right specific age of little kids. Like too little, they don't care. Yeah. It's just not that impressive. Everything is equally impressive. But, like 6 to 10, 12, yeah, it's still pretty cool. And let's do a trick. I am doing a trick. I'm juggling. That is a trick, dude. Leave me alone. This is my trick.
Be impressed, please. I worked hard. Yeah, so I did that, and I guess I went to see a show of hers or something because she was a juggler, and somehow I heard about that.
Yeah, she's great.
And then I talked with her. She talked about the Clown Conservatory, and that seemed a lot more interesting and unique than going to college, like getting a degree in some university. So
you came from Santa Cruz, yes. Which is also where isn't Pi out of Santa Cruz?
I guess they were at UCSC. So I don't think they came
from Santa Cruz. They were just at UCSC,
and that's where
with Patty Gallagher. So you never met Pi. You never met Patty Gallagher before coming up to the Clown Conservatory.
No,
just a weird set of coincidences.
Yeah.
So you went straight from you've just gotten out of high school, you're figuring out what to do, to the conservatory.
Yeah. I had once I knew that I was at the conservatory, I was like, well, I think I should learn some things about clown. And so I went and took Avner's workshop in Maine.
Wow.
At the Celebration Barn. So I did that, the 2-week workshop with Avner, and that was great. That was a fantastic introduction to the world of clown for me. That was really great. And then I did the conservatory, and that's how I...
Now, Avner's approach towards clown is very, very different than, say, Jeff's. And was Jeff running the conservatory when you attended? Okay.
Yeah.
Then Jeff's approach. Can you tell us a little bit about the differences between the two, or at least how they resonated with you?
Well, I think the thing that resonated the most with me from Avner was, I mean, the work with audience. You know, whenever we had to work with an audience volunteer, you know, his whole philosophy of when you bring someone on stage, you should be making everyone else in the audience wish it was them. That spoke a lot to me. You know, it's not at all in the world of kind of dark clown and any of that, which I think just spoke to me. You know, something. Yeah, you should be pleasing to the audience. Not that any other forms aren't valid, but you know, for me, that was like, okay, yeah, that seems like something that resonates with me. Gosh, it's been so many years now, and with Jeff, I mean, there was also a lot of great things. Yeah, it's different focuses. You know, Jeff focuses a lot on structure and technique, and I think both of those things were really great for me. You know, you get kind of both ends. Like, okay, working on the presence and he's always talking about the rapport with the audience, Avner is, and then getting from Jeff, work on the structure and your technique, and both of them combined were a really good start.
What was it doesn't have to be the most important, but a most important thing you took out of your training in the conservatory? Because it's something we don't talk about much on the show, is that while so many people who've been on the show came through the conservatory, this is not the way clowns traditionally become clowns. It's passed down through, you know, familial lines, generation by generation, or they did something else and they got so broken they couldn't do it anymore, but still needed to be in the circus.
Right.
You know, and so they would take on clown and learn it from there. Learning it in a school, this is, I think, the first time, aside from, you know, the Ringling College, at least in America, that we had a place that was dedicated just to this one art form. So what are a thing that you came out of your education that has benefited you the most, or, you know, something, not the most?
Gosh, I don't know. Can I take a pass? Because I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking of things of just, you know, like learn from performing, which seems completely contrary to the question. You know, the question is what you learn from the schooling. But learn from performing.
And that's something they hammer down in the school. At least when we went, is that you learn clown by being a clown. Yeah. You don't learn clown. Even in the school, they made it really clear that you don't learn clown by going to a school to become a clown. You learn clown by doing clown, and that's why so much of our year was performance oriented and getting you in front of an audience.
I guess yeah, that, you know, that pearl of wisdom that just like when you come out of here, you're not necessarily a clown. Go out into the world and learn to become a clown, and then you'll be a clown. And yeah.
So how did you get from the conservatory in San Francisco to Switzerland?
Well, I did the 1-year program, and that was great. And there I met Keith Fasciani, who I started performing with almost immediately once we were in school together, because we just had this kind of great, you know, jive together. It really worked well. So we stayed for the second year and kind of they had the advanced program, and we were training together and working on material. And things were going well, really well, but I think I kind of just got to this point where I was like, okay, what am I doing with my life? Is this like a good path? Like, I think I felt that I needed some more training.
And that would be the Dimitri School?
Yeah. So I heard about the Dimitri School. I'd heard about it from Judy Finelli. She had talked to me about it. And then there was some point when I was here in San Francisco, and I was helping John Gilkey. I was like playing a bit part in one of his shows. And then I asked him just for some advice. And he said, yeah, you should go get training, you know, in Blue Lake or Dimitri School. And then that was the second time, and something about it just kind of spoke to me. So I said, okay. And I went over to Switzerland and auditioned, and then it was that was it. And then I started my whole path over there in Europe.
So tell us some about the Dimitri School, because I think most of us haven't experienced something like that.
Right. Well, first thing is, it's not a clown school. It's a theater school. So it's physical theater. So it's, based in all types of movement forms and physical expression. It's definitely known as a clown school, even in Switzerland, where it's very famous, because Dimitri was, he was a celebrity in Switzerland. So it's known as a clown school and a circus school, but it's a theater school. And it's always becoming more and more kind of experimental and going towards kind of dance, experimental theater. But it's a great place for a clown. The students do many, many different things. There are dancers, there are actors, there are circus people that do clown, there are people that have never done anything. I am kind of like the stereotypical, people say, oh, you did Dimitri, of course, and you're a clown. But I'm kind of the exception, me and my partner. But it's great. It's in a tiny little village in the southern Alps, in the south of Switzerland, in the Italian region. And you're just kind of holed away in the mountains. It's 3 years, intensive, every
3 years.
day. Yeah, it's a bachelor's program, so you get a degree at the end. And
wow, so you have a bachelor's degree
in theater or physical theater or whatever I want to make up.
And you met your current performing partner through the school?
Yeah, we were in the same class. The classes are small, it's 3 years, so there's 3 classes. There's about 12 people in each class. There's also a master's program now, so that's getting bigger and bigger. But yeah, we were in the same class, but actually during the school, we never really had any interest in performing together. We got along fine, and we knew each other well, because you're very close. You do all of your classes with all of your classmates, so you're with them all day, every day. But it was kind of by chance. It was a fluke that after school, I was very aware that I need to start thinking about what did I want to do after school, at near the end of the 3rd year. And so I knew I was interested in Circus Monti, which is it's a Swiss circus. So I got in contact with them, actually with the idea of performing with a different girl from my class. And we were waiting for a response, and they said, okay, yeah, maybe it's interesting. Then this other girl, she decided she wanted to do something else. And Celine from my class, I had talked with her, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm interested too. And I was like, well, you should just go talk to them. And then they ended up proposing. They said, hey, do you guys want to do a duo together? So we said, okay, well, we'll try and see what happens. And
so before just the two of you as a duo, was the two of you as a duo with Circus Monti?
Before we started it was just 2 random performers who got hired by Circus Monti to create a duo.
And that's amazing. Now, I didn't know you'd done Circus Monti before doing your current show. So tell us about that. Tell us about life with Circus Monti.
Monti
and
was
your brand
great.
new partner.
Yeah, it was cool. We had a kind of a rough start with the director, because you have 2 months of creation time, and so there's a lot of pressure. The clowns come in without any material. All of the other acrobats and everyone, they come with their act. They're hired to do their act, and they have to adjust it and adapt it and do some group numbers. But for the clowns, they often do that they hire 2 random people who've never worked together, and you got to create all your material for the 8-month tour that comes. And so the director had a lot of pressure to get us to make some material, and we had never worked together. We didn't know what our relationship was on stage, and we didn't really have that kind of protective bubble where we could just explore and do whatever. But it went okay. We forced out some numbers, and then over the period of the tour, it's a long tour.
Yeah. You're going to refine, you're going to shape it, you're going to find what works.
Exactly.
How many years did you tour with Monti? Was it just the one, or did you go on?
Just one. They normally do, you do 1 season, and then they get all new artists for the next season.
But leaving Circus Monti, you had material, and you had a partner that you trusted and could work with, and that led to the diptych.
Yeah. Well, even at the end of Monti, we finished, and me and Celine said, well, that was great. It was cool. Well, see you around. Maybe we'll do something else sometime. And it was just a series of people proposing other jobs and other festivals that it was like, oh, okay, you want to do this? Yeah, we have this possibility. Okay. oh, okay, there's this other gig, they want us to do something, okay. And then eventually it's like, well, it keeps working, people keep wanting us to do stuff, so yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you guys do. What are your acts? What's the relationship? How does the diptych work? And how does it work for a European audience? Are you doing this in English? Are you doing it in another language? How does diptych function?
Well, we're changing. We're very young, and we're new. You know, we're constantly trying to figure out who we are. We started, in Monti, so we had these numbers. It was kind of more cute and friendly. That's also kind of the atmosphere of Circus Monti. It's for the families and kids. So we started out doing numbers. Then we got hired to do a run with the GOP variety show in Germany, and so we made some new numbers for that. That kind of got a little closer to something that interested us. You know, it wasn't necessarily so cute or happy. Which I don't want to say that in a negative way. I feel like I'm doing down it, but just to say, you know, for us, it wasn't.
Clown is a spectrum. And it's nuanced, and it's not just, you know, people acting like cartoons.
Right. But we had both also worked a lot in the theater and in the theater world, and so it had been maybe 2 years, and you know, we both had this interest in going to something more theatrical, and we wanted to make a show also. So then we had an opportunity for kind of a convention, a theater convention in Switzerland. And we had an opportunity to present some stuff there. And so we decided that's a great reason to make a full-length show. So then we collaborated with another friend of ours, Marjolaine Minot, who's based in Switzerland. And we said, okay, we want to make a theatrical clown show. And I think making that show, it's called Hang Up, is the show, started to really define us, because then we really had a blank slate, and we just said, let's just make a show. That's the only point of departure, is we're going to make a show. And we said, okay, what interests us? You know, what are some themes? How do we want the characters to be? And so we really just had free range, because it was just us together, and we got to do whatever we wanted. So now the show it's kind of a poetic, absurd clown play. It's just the two of us. Our friend just helped us write and create it, and she helped direct it.
So what are the themes? I mean, hang up in English, you know, has a number of connotations. Hanging up the phone, psychological hang-ups, getting stuck on something.
Right.
What is hang up about?
Well, that's actually the reason I chose it, was the title, because I thought, you know, it touches a lot of themes. We had started with the theme of telephones was an element, and being stuck on hold, and automated telephone response systems, which ended up not being in the show at all, but that was a point of departure. The synopsis, more or less, is we're two souls waiting for reincarnation. So we're hanging in two coats, which is another element that kind of came in randomly. You know, that image that we've seen a lot, you know, of kind of hanging on a hanger. Mm-hmm. But we're actually also hanging. We kind of fixed up a whole system because we said, oh, it'd be really great if we were actually hanging. So that was kind of the focus. So we're hanging in these coats, and we're two souls in between lives. We'd have had many lives, and we're going to have many more. And we're waiting in this in-between state, kind of trying to pass the time.
Well, that opens the door to influences, because that's, you know, a very Beckett-like concept that you're describing there.
Yeah.
So who are the media? Who are the media that influence the clown that you are? What is, you know, the movies, the TV shows, the books, the records that have the most impact on what clown you ended up becoming?
Well, for me personally, not necessarily the show.
Just you, yeah.
Monty Python, I have to say, is definitely one, which I think only came about because my brother, who was older, was really into Monty Python, and so if he was into it, then I thought, well, this has got to be good, and so I watched Holy Grail probably 60 times in high school, And I think that definitely influenced just kind of that dry, absurd British humor. More recently, someone also who I really think is great is Wes Anderson and his films. There's something about the world that he creates and the fantasy, the kind of fantastical reality.
I think that's a good description of it. If magical realism wasn't already taken for something else, I think that would be a good description. But yeah. Wes Anderson is, and just the beauty and symmetry and the aesthetics of everything he does is so impactful.
That's a good word, is beauty, because that's something else that influenced us a lot as a duo. Is we really want to and really have a goal of doing things that are nice, that are beautiful to see, that aren't necessarily just laughs and ha ha ha, but we take a lot of time also to touch on the more poetic end. That's more Celine's influence. I come up with the stupid gags, and she makes sure we have some depth.
Nice.
And some poetry.
It's good to have a strong partnership.
Yeah.
So you're working in Switzerland, and presumably in Europe, but it's specifically in Switzerland, and you probably don't have a lot of reference for working in America to tell what the differences are. But what is it like working over there, finding the festivals, getting the jobs, getting the work done? What are the audiences like? What is it like being a performing clown in Europe right now for you?
It's great. It's really great. We're mostly in Switzerland. We've done a few things outside. And we were with the GOP for a while in Germany, but now touring Hang Up, it's all in Switzerland.
GOP Variety, is that the one that Thomas Truman John was with for quite a while?
Thomas has been with them in all of their theaters and a number of other variety shows.
I'm hoping definitely to have him on someday, even though I don't think he considers himself a clown, but I really want to have him on the podcast.
Yeah, he'd be great.
Wonderful guy.
Yeah.
Have you got to work with anyone that you've known from here in the time that you've been over there?
I don't think so. I've crossed paths with a few people, but working with them, it's pretty much been just with Celine and a few other small things, but no, it's...
So you had 3 years to make some relationships before you were cast out into the world to make your own way, but that's got to be somewhat challenging, being that completely alone and foreign in another country, trying to make your way in a field that isn't, at least in this country, either lucrative or in demand. I know you've got a higher demand in Europe, but I'm assuming that must be difficult.
Well, all I can say is I was really lucky. I've just been really, really lucky. Just a lot of dumb luck. But yeah, I mean, after school, I was really lucky to get on the Monti show, and so that was pretty much a year gig, and that, you meet a lot of people and make a lot of contacts. You're able to stay there for a year, and then it was just luck. We got this other festival. It's the Young Stage Circus Festival in Basel. Dumb luck. I don't know. Yeah. Europe's great because there is somewhat a demand for clown, more than here maybe. But also what's really great is the there's support for it, financial support. It's considered a job. So when we have a company and we say, okay, we do clown shows, we're required to form a company and do all the paperwork and get insurance, and they say you have to be paid at least minimum wage. So we're required by law to pay ourselves minimum wage, and there are foundations. There's so many foundations that you can ask grants for, and you can fund a whole production before it even exists.
So there doesn't seem to be any of the antipathy towards clowns that not even the Western world, just America, just specifically the United States of America has, maybe Canada as well. I don't believe they have that in Mexico. It's different in Mexico. From what I understand, from what I understand, I'm not attributing this as fact, but from what has been explained to me by the Mexican clowns that I've known, is that clowns in Mexico are seen as kind of, typically homeless people and street performers, and street performers and homeless people are kind of seen as the same thing. But in America, and maybe a lesser degree in Canada, there is an open antipathy towards clowns. Clowns are an easy target and and a joyful target, something that people take a great deal of pleasure in demonstrably, aggression. Anyway,
yeah,
you don't have that over
there's
there.
no, there's much less. I mean, maybe you might, no, just more or less no, virtually no. It's not necessarily normal. I still get weird looks if I say, "Oh yeah, I'm David. I'm a clown," but many fewer weird looks, and there's a lot of more interest. Oh yeah, okay, where? Oh, the Dimitri School. Okay, great. I think Dimitri did a lot in Switzerland specifically. Everyone knew Dimitri, to say, "Oh, great, you were at the Dimitri School. Fantastic." So it makes life a lot easier, I think. I definitely think if I had stayed here in the Bay Area, I don't know if I would have continued. I don't think I have the drive or the for that.
I mean, I went into production. I'm not actively performing, and so many of the 100+ graduates of the school that we both went to went on to doing something adjacent. So many of them went on to teaching, and so many of them went on to teaching in one form or another. Summer camps and schools for rich children and things like that, where you go in and teach. They can afford to have a circus skills teacher come in, and because I mean it has been shown repeatedly that teaching the circus arts, you're both teaching the arts and you're teaching, physical fitness at the same time. You're teaching something that massively improves a child's ability to function in a school environment, to get good grades, to learn discipline, to learn social interaction, to learn art, all in one role. So, if the school has the money, it's a benefit to them to bring in someone to teach it. But there's a great deal more demand for circus skills teachers than there are for clowns.
Yeah.
And this is the Bay Area where there's demand. It's not like there's a great deal more demand here than there is probably in Minnesota or Stillwater.
Yeah, everyone always asks me, like, "Oh, don't you want to go back home and like bring your show to California and perform?" And I'm like, "Well, a part of me does, but then there's the other part that's just would be like, oh my God, there'd be so much work. We would hope, we would dream to maybe cover our expenses, and other than that."
So you're gonna just stay in Switzerland?
Well, we'll see. I try to not make too many future plans. And right now it's working well, and I'm having a great time. The company's taking off.
How many years has the Diptych been now?
It's been about 5 years. Yeah, 5 years since we graduated.
5 years, one partner. That's a strong relationship.
Yeah. So now we're thinking about a second show. We're in the middle of making something right now, via Skype. we have a festival coming up in just a few weeks, where they kind of said, you have, blank slate, you can do whatever you want, at least 30 minutes. So we said, great, that'll be a great opportunity to try something new, to be pushed to make something new. Like, well, I'll be in California, that's fine, we'll just Skype and brainstorm, and then we'll put the show together in 2 weeks. And now we're thinking, actually a lot of our creation process is improvisation, on stage in the space. That's pretty difficult through Skype.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how that goes. But
where is this festival?
It's in Freiburg. Yeah.
Which is?
It's in the French-speaking part of Switzerland. It's where my partner's from. She grew up there, so it's kind of where we're based. Yeah.
And so far, you've managed to make it just as a clown. No day job, no side work. You're just performing for a living.
Yeah.
You are living the dream.
It definitely feels like a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So we touched base briefly on your influences. Going back to that, is there some piece of media, clown, movie, comedian, whatever, that you feel is underrated and more clowns should be aware of, more clowns should be learning from?
I don't know if I have any specific things. I mean, I have things, maybe for me.
Those are fine.
Well, I would just say, like, more in general, just kind of things that aren't necessarily funny, I find for me are a great influence. A lot of my starting points are things that really aren't anywhere near the world of clown, that are just, whatever. For a piece that I did at the end of school, in Dimitri School, I was inspired by like sorting centers, like mail sorting centers and like Amazon shipping centers. And I randomly found myself on YouTube watching these videos of these massive centers that have, 43 billion packages every minute. Anyway, that was an inspiration for a piece. Things that are just beautiful. Also things that come from foreign countries and other languages. I feel like there's so much. I'm so grateful to have been exposed to all these other things that really opened my mind to all of these other things. And then having been in Switzerland, I was in Switzerland for 6 years, and I thought like, wow, I've experienced so many things. And then last year I went to Ukraine for about a month and a half, and I was there, and then I was hanging out with some friends, and then they're like, oh, do you know this comedian? And, he's this Russian comedian. I was like, well, no, obviously not, but yeah. And then I realized like this, there's this whole world where he's known by everyone in Russia, this comedian.
Do you remember his name?
No, it's some film star, but it's just like, wow, there's a whole world here, that I'm not even aware that exists. And I think those are great places to, just to open your mind and discover new things. Yeah.
So next up is the festival in Freiburg.
Mm-hmm.
What is after that for you and Diptych?
Well, we'll keep going with Hang Up. We have a whole nother season planned. That'll be all of this, we'll already be doing shows in August all the way out till April. We have scheduled now. We're gonna rework it again. After our first season, we took about a week or two and revised it and changed some things around and wrote some new material for it. And we're gonna do that again. We're thinking about a second piece. I'm also actually going back to school, back to Dimitri School, and I'm going to do the master's program, which I never thought I would do, but...
What led to that change?
If I'm completely honest, the first motivation was because it's up to 3 years of a visa, permanent visa. That was the first inspiration. But then on further reflection, it's actually a really great program, the master's program at Dimitri. It's pretty new, and it's very, very open. The whole goal of the program actually is just essentially to create a piece. You come in, it's completely different than the bachelor's program where it's really training and you're being taught and you're doing what they're telling you to do. The master's is completely free. You say, I'm interested in this. I'm interested in clown, or it could be dance or opera or whatever. And I want to make a show, and this is my concept, and this is my idea, and I want to research this, and you get a budget to make a show.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, what languages are subjects taught in at the Dimitri School?
Dimitri's in Italian. The master's program is in English because that's what they decided, but the bachelor's program is in Italian because it's in the Italian
So you had
region.
to learn to function in Italian to go to the Dimitri School?
I did.
And did you have any background in language before you got there?
I didn't. Well, once I knew I was accepted, then I got Rosetta Stone, Italian, and then Buongiorno, sono David. But other than that, no. But it wasn't, I wasn't alone. There's maybe a third less, maybe a fourth of the students are native Italian speakers because they're either German French or Swiss German or Swiss French or Norwegian or Israeli. Actually, in my class, there was 11 of us, and none of us were native speakers of Italian, but our language of communication was Italian. So that was another great part.
So that said,
that
said, who are the artists coming out of this world that you are so steeped in right now, that you are the most interested in, that you think people should be paying attention to?
Do you mean like colleagues, like people that I was...
Mm-hmm. Colleagues, people that you've seen over there, people that really grab your attention?
There's a fantastic group from France. They're not at all from the Dimitri School, but they're Les Chiches Capon. for Anglophones, that would be Chiche Capon, CHICHE space CAPON. They're excellent. They're working right now. They're touring. They're a bunch of crazy clowns. There's 4 of them. They actually come from the Samovar. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. It's a school in Paris. It's a clown school in Paris. They came out of there. There's another one, Bonaventure Garcon. He's another clown. He's great. He works with a kind of dark clown. He's got a solo show. It's essentially a monologue. He's kind of this freak who lives in the woods and talks about how he waits in the bushes and then jumps out and captures little girls and eats them up. But it's very, I mean, it's hilarious and touching and tragic, and so he's great. There's many. There's Peter Schub. He's on a completely different end. He's been working for decades and decades. He's mostly in Germany. Completely different style of clown, but really excellent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So shifting back to the more global perspective, not just over there. Well, before we do that, where can people find you and your work via the internet?
Well, we're on the all-powerful Facebook. If you search for Les Diptyques, LES space DIPTIK, we have a Facebook page which I update sporadically, and then also, of course, our website. It's lesdiptyques.com, all one word. That's pretty much it for the internet.
All right. One last question before we're done. If you could tag any 3 other clowns to be on the podcast, who would they be?
Well, definitely my first teachers, Keith Fasciani and Tristan Cunningham. They were great, and I think would have great input about kind of their work in theater and how that connects to clown. Other people that are working in Europe, like Thomas John, or even Olivia Weinstein. She's a San Francisco native, and she has a great career going in Europe right now. Or Mick Holzbeck is another American. He's not from the Bay Area community, really. I think he's from Seattle, but he just had a solo show like a year ago now that's doing really great. Also, other people that don't necessarily do clown. I don't know, Dominique Jandot. That would be really interesting if he could talk about his experience. That was more than 3.
David Melendy of Les Diptyques, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Abraham.
Thank you for joining us today on Ridiculous Life of a Clown. This program, as always, is made possible by your support through our Patreon, which you can find through www.picklewater.com. Also, please join us this coming January 27th, 2018 at 7 p.m. at Stageworks Theater in San Francisco for a huge circus gala featuring clowns, comedians, and burlesque dancers, all in benefit of Planned Parenthood. Hope to see you then. Bye-bye.